You're good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Halloween edition of the DC Buzz. I am your host. Wait, to quote the Haunted Mansion at Disney World, I'm your ghost host, Michael Hanley, and this is my annual Halloween DC Buzz. But I'm not doing it alone this year. For those that may have seen my previous one of Haunted Lighting, or the previous one where I did about the darkness of AI, I was alone, but I brought a crew with me. I brought the Live from the Hive crew. Thank you. And first up, I want to bring up the spooky Professor Andrew Rout. This is where I need my roadcaster duo.
Your roadcaster with the applause.
And we're going to be talking about some set safety stuff, but also we have to bring in Professor Randy Baker. So, gentlemen, I figured we would start this off a little bit by giving some of the ideas about why we are doing this whole thing on set safety, what our purpose is. And I don't want to talk about, and we talked about this before recording, the idea of we really shouldn't be talking about horror stories, but more of how we prevented the horror of happening on things, especially what Professor Ott was talking about. But Professor Baker, since you're standing next to me, can you give me one of your infamous, this happened to me on the set and you won't believe that it actually happened?
Sure. I was doing a television series called Live from the Hive. Yeah, I was doing a television series.
Well, we did have one already. Yeah. Mike bumped his head on the light.
I bumped my head on the dome lid as I was getting ready to start shooting. So there's my story. Professor, please.
I was doing a television series called Airport 24/7 at the Miami airport. We basically had all access to the airport, and a tug had hit a water main right outside where the planes pull up to the gates. And so we were following the firefighters in to see how far the water went underneath the structure there. And we'd followed them in, and we came around a corner and there was a giant bank of electrical outlets, the big transformers and stuff there. And the water was about this far away from going over the edge. And the firefighter turned to me and said, run very fast. So that was the closest I've ever come to death on a shoot.
So was there anything that could have been done to prevent this?
Yeah, it's like we always say, prior planning prevents problems.
Okay.
The 5 Ps, and it's just, somebody from the fire department should have went in there first and said, but we had very young, ambitious producers, especially when you get on things like reality shows, where you get a young crew on there and they don't really know safety protocols. Yeah. And so, yeah, there was a long discussion afterwards about, hey, we almost all died in there. You realize that. Yeah.
And so I look at it to where here's a perfect example of why we're telling this to our students now, is we want you to be armed with all of this information now, because we're giving you best practices of how to do things on here, especially how Professor Rout thinks when it comes to best practices. Do you have something that you want to share?
I remembered a story. Oh, I was working with one of your upcoming course directors, Ryan Funk, and we were shooting this event called Wake for Warriors. It's an organization that takes military vets and who have problems either with PTSD or they're amputees, and we get them out on wakeboards. Okay, and it's a fantastic organization. But Ryan and I were on a chase boat. It was a pontoon boat. Okay, and we were in the chase boat. We were filming the ski boat and the wakeboarders. And what happened was we were chasing, and then all of a sudden the pilot of the boat crossed a wake, and the bow of the boat went at least 3 feet under the water. And Ryan, with his cameras in Pelican cases, were on the bow. And I had my audio rig and he had his cameras, and I kid you not, we were like freaking out because he had all his cameras, but some of them were in Pelican cases and they could have gone in the drink. And I think that was one of the scarier moments for me, because you could get injured in a situation like that. So yeah, it's you gotta be careful. But they had too many people in the boat, and we were all rushing to the stern, right, the back.
Yeah, sir.
To equalize the and it was a pontoon boat, so it was pretty crazy.
So I get two, but they're quick ones because of the same thing. Both of them were times I almost got a piece of lighting gear dropped on my head. One of them was the first time it was a student production, and I was actually set up with camera on one side of what's supposed to be the spy's computer bank. We're doing that classic kind of over the whole shoulder shot, you know, getting the bank, the whole thing. And so they've built up this set so the lights can be flown behind it. And all of a sudden, I am sitting there trying to get things set up. I see a light come up over the set, and all I hear is this rock and banging against the set. And he's like, "Sorry, putting the sandbag on now."
Jeez.
The other one, which is a positive, was I was actually working with a gaffer. This isn't a pro thing, and he was doing a exterior music video thing. He was using natural lighting, using reflector boards, and he's going, "It's getting real windy out here. I better make sure this is all clamped down." And as he's clamping down the last stake, a gust of wind hit, and basically, had he not had everything clamped down, this thing would have been going. So he was making extra sure on that to make sure everything was clamped down. And I think that fits into what we're talking about today, because of the fact that that's part of what we're going to be talking about is putting weights on stuff, making sure it's safety. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing with safety is the fact of things that potentially could fall over.
Yeah, and how to mitigate
exactly,
you know, those risks. I mean, if you want me to start, I'll just share a few things.
Yeah.
We talk about our superpowers. When I go out on a film job, I'm a production audio sound mixer, and more times than not, I'm out on the gig myself. I'm not with a sound team, so I have the bag on with all of the gear, and I'm holding my boom pole and up in the air. So one of the things, or a handful of things, I have to consider. I have to be so self-aware of where the light stands are, where the camera rig is, tripods, and certainly if it's a multi-camera shoot or if there are dolly tracks, I have to be uber aware of that, because when we're shooting a movie, we're not always just standing there. If we were, that would be okay. But we're constantly moving because the actors are moving. And if we're recording dialogue, we have to move with the actors. So we're one of the departments that has to know what everyone is doing, where everyone is set up, where the grips and electric are placing their C-stands, because it's not uncommon that we're moving around a lot. And if we were to just swing around and not be cognizant that there's a light stand there, that could knock over a light. We could, if there was a production assistant or an actor or another crew member in the wrong place at the wrong time, we could really clock them. And so we have to be very cognizant of where everything is, on top of just doing our job, and also Alan, who you're going to see in a minute, we talk about this all the time. When we're like doing walk and talks, we'll have a spotter behind us, because when we're walking, we can't see what's behind us, because we're usually in a walk and talk. We're filming the actors walking, so there are a lot of things that we have to be very aware of. And I think that's a big thing when I go into a job. And if I'm lucky enough to be able to go out on a site visit, where I can actually see and talk with the director and the cinematographer, what the moves are, then I can mentally prepare for the shoot. So those are some of the things that I think about when I'm trying to mitigate any issues.
And this is cool. And I want people to demonstrate. Are we on the wide still? Yeah. Cool. I want to demonstrate something here real fast. Alan, can you pull back a little bit to see that boom pole? his set presence was so much that every time he was describing what he was doing, he was coming within inches of this boom, but he was always making sure to be aware where not to hit on there. It's building that sense presence, it's building that idea of the setting, of where you're at, is one of the things that really is going to be important to safety on here.
And you know, safety, we think about safety as safety for us, so we're not going to be hurt. But there are so many other things we're going to talk about tonight about safety of our gear.
Yes.
You know, how we properly place a C stand or what have you, or how we position our tripods and stuff, so we're not knocking over cameras or lights aren't falling on a crew member, that sort of thing.
I never should have said about falling over.
But you know, that's, you know, you got gear safety as well, just like that little example I was saying on the boat.
Yes.
You know, that could have been a major loss for him,
Right.
if we just went into the drink.
And here's what I tell students in my class.
Yes.
You know, when we talk about light stands and setup, and we'll go through the proper
We're going to
setup
be
of
going
the
through a
light
lot
stand
of
here.
stuff tonight.
But what we say to them is that, you know, if the light falls over and breaks, it's a couple $100.
Right.
Falls over in your camera and knocks your camera over and breaks, a couple $1,000. If you're on a set with talent, it falls over and hits the talent, that's a lawsuit that you're responsible for.
Correct.
And, you know, depending on what state you're in,
Yeah.
they could take your entire house, you know, so.
Right.
The key here is that safety is everybody's responsibility on a set, whether you're a one-person crew or a 400-person crew, it's your responsibility. And so it's, if you see something, say something.
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing. And I
Yeah.
can tell you story after story after story where department heads stepped up and said, no, we're not going to do that. We were on a shoot at a big theme park, I won't name the name of it, with a major rock band called Creed doing a music video,
yeah.
and they decided to flood the whole area, and they were putting lights in there, and the gaffer said, we don't have ground faults, we need ground faults for these.
You've dealt with a lot of water stuff.
Yeah, just tons of water stuff.
Welcome to Florida. It rains here.
But you know, it's incumbent on all of us, if we're being asked to do something that we know in our heart and logic tells us that's not safe, you don't have to do it. You don't.
And now this is something important. I want to go back to the idea of why we're talking to our students about this, because we're talking about productions we've worked on here, but we've also worked on the short films. We've worked on student films. We've helped out with different people on here. We've gone through everything in our careers on this. And it is now, when you are learning, when you're handling this gear, is starting you on the path to being able to prevent these kind of things, because the important thing that's been said so far is inexperienced crew. Inexperienced. These are people who basically have not had the opportunity to have the gear, to have the stuff, but also they haven't had the opportunity to have us.
Yeah.
I look at it that
We're
way.
working with people that you really, you know, and that's one of the things you look at when you work at crew people. Are they looking out for you? And it's like you said, you're looking out for yourself, you're looking out for the other crew people, you're looking out for the talents,
Right.
you know, and you're, you know, we don't talk enough about, I think, taking care of yourself, but if you're here in Florida, I've been on multiple sets where people have had heat stroke and passed out, and they had to call the ambulance to come in, or they've gotten food poisoning.
But they
or,
don't
you know,
understand that we are like on the equator. It is like sunscreen, for instance. You know, it's like wear a hat, wear sunscreen, because it does get hot.
I'm
Just common
seeing
sense.
A second series in
Common
this one,
sense.
the second part.
Wear the right shoes
Stuff.
on the set.
Where are the right shoes? Oh yeah, closed-toed shoe. Huh?
Bugs.
Bugs. Oh yeah,
Bring
be
the
aware
bug
of
spray.
bugs. You know what? Can we, Miss Covine, are you available for a second? Okay, stay on the white shot. Thank you, Alan, by the way, on doing this. Let me
Okay, let's
introduce-
make way.
Let me introduce Miss Jessica Covine, last specialist and right-hand person to me in Project and Portfolio 2. I realized I haven't introduced, Professor Rout is the course owner for Intro to Post-Production, and Professor Baker is the course owner for Composition Visual Design
And you are the course director
for
for,
Project and Portfolio 2.
and
Okay, fine. And Fundamentals of Production 1. We
Thank
usually
you.
don't tell them.
It's the spoiler.
It's the worst kept secret of Full Sail.
And on camera and audio, we have Alan Harris.
come on out
Who's
here, Alan.
Snuck away. Make sure.
no, I'm gonna-
the wide shot.
Okay,
thing.
I'll
I'm gonna
make
hide
your
back
move.
here, everybody, but I am.
Okay, so what were you saying about bugs? And also, I believe you
Oh.
have a story also.
Yes, bugs I was on one set where nobody brought bug spray, and they were shooting in the woods, and people suffered
In the woods in Florida.
in the woods in Florida.
Okay, we're basically a swamp.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
mosquitoes like crazy, and sunburn because nobody had sunscreen. And
Sunscreen, water, bug propellant, and that's just Florida.
hats.
Get out your aloe.
Yes.
And as for my story, it was a different water story, but it was not in Florida. It was in Georgia, where there was lots of mud and clay. And when it rained, all that mud, that beautiful Georgia red clay there, turned to like the wet sand,
Turned into quicksand?
quicksand, and sunk
Ouch.
a golf cart, a walkie-talkie, and the EMT had to pull out a person that had sunk into the quicksand.
So the walkie was how much, the golf cart was how much, and then
The
falling
PA
in,
was
the
replaced.
PA was
Yeah.
the lawsuit.
They were able to get the golf cart out at least, but we could never found that walkie.
Okay, before we move on, I've got to point out that I'm looking at you, me, and I feel like we're in the Sesame Street thing. One of these things is not like the
I
other.
forgot I was going to be in the
Okay.
camera, so I was like,
So because
So
of that,
we should have made him wear the hot dog suit.
wears the
Yeah,
hot dog
we
suit.
have the hot dog suit. And we got our buddy back here on this one, so he's already glaring at you too because he's wearing orange.
Hat off, we could give the hat to Randy.
yeah.
No.
So
Randy gets the prize. He has to hold the pumpkin.
yeah.
Right, because it's his turn to talk. What we're going to do is we're going to actually break this up into a little bit of segments now, and we're going to start off with some safety when it comes to lighting and camera from Professor Randy Baker. So
Okay.
here we go.
Get started. I'm going to put the pumpkin down. These guys are going to jump on cameras. And the real question here is, why does Andy have a hot dog suit in his car? That's the question. So first of all, we're going to talk about cameras. If you've been in my class, you know this drill. Okay. So the secret to this is what we see all the time is this, that people have their cameras set up wrong and they put the tripod up wrong. So they don't have it balanced correctly, front to back. They put one leg in front like this, and usually that leg is a little shorter than the other. And then when they undo the camera, here's what happens. And then if it's not balanced correctly, the whole thing falls over and breaks. So you always have to make sure, may sound like a simple thing, but you always have to make sure that the camera is balanced correctly. So what you want to do is you want to, mark it once you get it set. And there's a bubble level on this that you want to make sure that's level. And so here's what you do. When you do this, you want to bring the camera back far enough. On the FX6, that is all the way back, okay? Just all the way back. And then when you do this, you should be able to dial in enough tilt and tension to it that you can do figure eights with a camera handle in the back, with 2 fingers on the back, like this. And wherever you let go of the camera, it stays. It doesn't move up and down. So when you do that, what you're doing is you're letting the camera work for you, okay? It's doing its job. So you can easily move the camera and just very slightly move it and pan it. But if it's front heavy, every time you do that, you're gonna be fighting the tripod, and it's extremely dangerous. It is the #1 thing that causes cameras to fall over and break. So if I have this locked down and I'm gonna try to move it, as soon as I unlock it, it tilts, and then anytime I let go of it, it tilts. So you always want to make sure you have that balance correctly front to back. So that's it. And then one of the big keys to that is anytime you're setting up your camera, and I don't recommend you do what I'm about to do, you tighten that down. You always, anytime you're dealing with the tripod and the camera, always make sure that you have the pan and tilt locked down. And before you let go of it, as we found out today, you want to give a tug up on the camera before you let go of it to make sure it's really seated. And then what you want
Why
to
do you
do,
want to give the tug up again?
because if you don't and you let go of it, it's not on there, the camera will fall right off the tripod. And we've had that happen often, including today. And I have to say, I was the culprit that time.
So
Okay.
it does happen, but but basically, this is one of the important things why I had him repeat it, is the fact that all of us have had a time where we thought the tripod was locked in, and because you take that 1 second to not think about that tug,
I've
can
been
happen.
shooting for over 45 years. I've only had the camera fall off the tripod once before, and that was about 35 years ago. And I teach this every week in my class, always lift up on the handle. The other thing is you want to make sure all the legs are straight before you balance the tripod. And that's it. And then make sure all the legs are flat. And depending on the type of legs, you need to make sure those are straight. So that's the camera. If we talk about the light stand, let me come back in here for just a second. Here is the light kit that you get. This is the light stand that you get with the camera package. And this is the SD80 softbox. I'll bring this back in a little bit more. So we're right there. Okay, so that's the SD80. And so it's a great little light. It's an 80-watt LED, and it comes with a softbox with a honeycomb grid and the diffusion panel. The problem is, again, you want to make sure that the light stand is as broad and wide and flat as possible at the bottom. You don't want it to be V'd up or V'd down, like this or like this. It's got to be as broad and wide as flat. You should be able to not put your shoe underneath the bottom of it. That's how wide. On the YR200, it needs to be straight across, but on this one it does. Here's what happens. These are very heavy lights. So if you put the light up all the way, and a lot of times you've got this light, it'll go up to like 7.5 feet, and you're just working with it, and somebody comes by and kicks the light, you can see how unbalanced that is. Doesn't take much for that light to fall over. So you got to be really careful. So what we recommend is anytime you're shooting around people, especially when you first start out, you get yourself a sandbag. And there's different types of sandbags you can buy. You can make your own sandbags. This is a 20-pound sandbag, okay, here. This is a 10-pound sandbag, and this is about a 5-pound sandbag. This one is full of shot, I think, is what I put in here. Yeah. BBs. These are BBs. Okay, so it's considered to be shot. And so the key to using a sandbag, and it doesn't take a lot of weight, you just got to know that. Most of them have Velcro on them like this. The key to this, and it's going to be kind of hard to see, is you don't want the sandbag touching the ground. If the sandbag touches the ground, it's not doing its job, okay? So if I were to take this and put it on like that, that's not doing anything. The light, will still wiggle and stuff. But if you have it on weighted down, that's the key to that. So that's the secret to using sandbags on anything that you're going to be doing. And then the last thing I want to talk about is if you need to go out and buy yourself some AC cables. These are like little 25-foot AC cables. And because these are LCD lights, you don't need them to be very strong. So when you're coiling AC cables, you don't do over and under, by the way. So let me just undo this so I can show you. So you want to do a natural wrap because they have coils in them, and that will damage the coils and eventually they will break. So just have to learn how to coil cable really well. So you always want to have like a couple 25-foot AC cables with you. And what you're going to do is you're going to run the cable from the light to the outlet instead of plugging the light directly into the outlet. And the reason why you don't want to do that is we don't want to see lights. Let's see if I can show you this. We don't want to see the lights plugged in and then the cable strung out from the light like that. That's very bad. And let me bring the light in a little bit so you can see it on the white side a little bit. So that's not what we want to see. So what you want to do is you want to get the cable. Let me just unwind this because it looks like it was over and undered. And you want to make sure that when you have an excess of cable at the end here, you can plug that into the outlet. And then what you do with the coiled in, you plug that into the light, and then you tuck that underneath the light itself. So this would be plugged into the light, coiled better than that, hopefully. Where's the end? Right there. And it would be tucked under the light like that. Okay. And so that way, if you had the cable stretched out to an outlet, if you had this run out to an outlet, and somebody came by and they tripped on this cable, they pull the cable out from underneath the light first before turning the light, pulling the light over. So that's just safety features for cameras. Finally, bring the camera back in. So make sure when you're traveling with the camera, this is a drop-in bag. I'm going to pull this out for a second to show you this. And we give you these Velcro straps that come with the bag so you can create a cage in there. And the back of the camera fits here and the front of the camera fits here. And then you have these straps that strap the camera into, these go over the body, not the handle. strap the camera into the bag so it doesn't roll around. Now, the thing you got to know about the FX6 is that the lens is twice as heavy as the camera. So if you don't secure that in the bag and you're walking around with it like this, the lens is going to be banging side to side. That will bend the flange of the camera. So you got to be careful. So I always recommend you wrap a towel around that as well. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is these ties. You can get red whips. These are popular, or you can get these, which are called bongo ties. So I use these on everything. Tie up your cables, tie your strap cables to your camera handles so they don't hang out and you don't catch on anything. You just want to make sure that everything you do is tied down. So that's it.
Okay, I got some questions for you.
Sure.
Can we jump in with one really cool thing?
Oh, yeah, jump in. Are we
Yeah,
still on the
come on
wide
in.
shot over there? Okay.
Where do you want it?
Oh, those are cable wraps.
Okay, these, okay, when we're running cables, whether it be a microphone cable, power cable, HDMI cable, and we're running across thresholds, if you will, or in the path of where people are gonna be walking. Alan found these on Amazon, and when I saw them, I just like, I want these. Because can you push in on these?
Trying to, it's black on black on the shirt.
Okay,
You
well.
wear a lot of black, I've noticed
On,
that.
I'll hold
okay,
it. You can tell
hold
me about it.
Okay,
There you go.
so you can see here, we have, Velcro down each edge. And what is really cool is that when you stretch the cable out, here, we'll do it this way. When you stretch the cable out, you put it, you put all the cables like that, and then the Velcro, you can put this on the ground, on the carpet. Like in here, we have industrial carpet, and we have some of these over on our threshold into our control room area. But what this does is it Velcros down and is, hides the cable, not only hides the cable, but protects it from people tripping. Again, one of those lawsuit things, and gear, because it could be a chain reaction. Somebody could trip, fall, hurt themselves. That could, be a chain reaction of knocking over a light.
Right.
And so, if you have gaff tape, they sell that in 1 inch up to what, 4 inches wide?
4 inches, and they make rollers that you can do it with. But
Yeah,
that's
that's super
yeah,
expensive.
$27 for a 1-inch roll of gaffer's tape. So
And you can find these, and because they're nylon, you can cut them. And I thought when I saw these were just amazing.
best thing since sliced bread. As soon as Alan
Oh.
showed it, the night Alan showed us that, I went out and ordered them off of Amazon.
Did ya?
Yeah, I use them all the time.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let
they're
me ask
great.
a
So-
question then. Nope, stay there. Nope. You brought that in. Okay, so what happens if the person doesn't have carpeting?
Then
What do you
gaffer's
do?
tape.
Then you gotta use gaff tape.
So you do need to still, so basically, can you give a quick what gaffer's tape actually is?
Gaffer's tape is a cloth tape that is very secure, but it will come off objects without taking paint and things off. So that's why it's so expensive. It's actually a cloth tape used primarily just for production. Don't use duct tape because duct tape is very, very sticky, but if you pull it off something with paint on it, it will take the paint off. It will. So
But
there's a
gaff
big
tape-
difference.
But gaff tape does get gooey though.
It does. If you leave it in the
it
car or something, it
or
will
on
get,
something.
yeah. And
Also-
over time it will.
My one recommendation is if you're doing it in your own home and you're saying, oh, I live here, I'm good to go. So you leave everything taped down overnight. Yeah, you're going to have trouble getting it off the cables.
I have a little tip. You guys talk.
And then the other thing is, anytime you're in a public space, any kind of public crossing, you have to tape down. You can't leave untaped. That's just a lawsuit waiting to happen.
So this is a little thing that I was shown. If you need to wrap a cable like this one, and you don't have a bongo
Bongo ties.
tie or a Velcro,
Red zip.
but you do have some duct or gaff tape. I won't use a lot of this because it is expensive. So what you do, this is really cool.
It's mine.
Okay,
So
what
I'm
we're gonna
tell
do.
you, use as much as you need.
Okay, so this is really cool. If you take this and you turn it back on itself and you stick it like that, oops, I got my finger caught in there, like so, if I had done it really well, you could then wrap this around
The cable.
the cable, and then with the sticky part like this, with the sticky part, you wrap it around like that, and then that,
Don't
if you
forget to
can
fold
see-
the edge over.
yep. And now it's like a cable tie without it sticking and gooing up your cable.
The tip to that is if you're before you put it all the way down,
Oh, yeah,
flip the
flip the-
end over so when you do tie it down, there's a little nib sticking
Yeah,
up
a little
there.
tab.
That you can grab a hold of. So again, that's where these bongo ties and red line ties come in handy. That's it.
But if you don't have one and you got gaff tape,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to throw in there. So, Andrew, can you take over this camera for a second?
So other safety questions about, tripod lights, cameras.
That's where I'm coming back in. Okay, so look at that. Most people in their own home have one of these strip plugs, these white, insane little things you get. How safe are these being used for these lights and everything?
They're great for these lights. These are LED lights. If you start using tungsten lights, you shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
The general rule is that it's a 10 amp. They're usually 20 amp circuits, and so you have to figure out what amperage your light is, and it's not the wattage. You can figure that out looking at the wattage, but you have to know the wattage. General rule, so you know that anytime an outlet is on a different wall, it's on a different circuit. They don't put the same outlet on two different walls at the same time. Or if you cross a threshold, the requirements for production are that they have to have that on a different circuit. So but these, you can plug all three of your lights into a single circuit, 10 amp, a 20 amp circuit, and not have any problems at all.
Okay, so here's a safety problem I see that I would like the advice on. I'm a new person asking about stuff, and I'm looking at my stuff going, okay, they just said if you stretch things out. So can I stretch out that plug to loosen up the camera? Exactly.
No, and you can't,
Yes.
and you can't plug two of them into each other and stretch it out even more. That's really dangerous because that's how fires start.
But I also look at it to where, how do you tape that down as a tripping hazard?
You can't tape that down. So I would never leave something like this on a professional shoot.
Exactly. So we are using it as a backup for something right now because we're using our basic lights that we have for the student shoot and everything. This is not on a pro shoot. They would have something that's a little more beefy, a little bit more. I'm trying to remember the quad box on there, where it is literally
we have a big quad box over there that we're powering up the camera with.
Yeah, we're powering up one with it right now. But the reason I'm saying it is I can see students, and I have seen beginners even do that, where it is that whole stretch it across on the thing.
All the time.
I want to ask you a question though. There's something that I have heard about on this one. Let's say you don't have carpet, but you have cable you got to run. What is your opinion of getting like a throw rug or something like that and putting a throw rug down?
They make industrial cable.
Well, I'm talking even if you went to like Lowe's and got a $5.
Yeah. Go get an outdoor carpet thing, a runner.
Yeah.
Runners are really what most people use. They roll them up in their van. They come this big and they'll go down an entire hallway. And then if you put things up against the wall, instead of having it right in the middle of the floor, and then anytime you're going across the threshold, make sure you try to use the what's the strip called in between the two doorways. You want to use that and tie that into that. So, and then don't skimp on taping those down. I've seen things where they've taped one side of the cable down, but they didn't have enough tape to tape the other side of the cable down. Don't do that.
Okay, so what I want to remind people on is the idea that we are doing question and answers towards the end. We're going to go a little bit probably past the normal 8 o'clock. I've set this for 8:30 as the extended part. So I want to remind everybody there is a Q&A option in the box. Please put your questions in the Q&A, not in the chat, and we're going to try and answer some of them as we get further in. So if you have any questions for Professor Baker and what he's talked about right now, put them in the Q&A, and we will jump on these things at the end of the live stream.
Yeah, and if you're working on a shoot with a short film or something like that where you have a crew, you should always have at the beginning of the shoot a safety meeting where you talk about here's what the requirements are, and here's if you see something, say something, or if you're having any kind of stunts or any kind of pyro or anything like that. Every morning you should have a safety meeting, and the stunt coordinator or the pyro coordinator or the firearm person should be there running that meeting. And so as a general rule, anytime I'm working on a television show, those meetings are always videotaped for, safety in case there's a lawsuit down the road.
I
Okay,
have a quick question. Who's in charge of safety on set?
Everybody is in charge of safety on set. Like I said, it's your responsibility. So that's what I usually tell every crew. Everybody here on this set is responsible for each other and yourself and anything that's the equipment and gear. So if you have to have your eyes open and your ears open, and you have to pay attention to the stuff.
Can you guys speak to the professionalism assignment in the student policy manual? Because we're talking about a lot
no,
of things.
because you can, since you're bringing it up.
Oh, I can?
Yeah,
Yes,
get
you
step
can come on in.
Okay.
I will jump over here.
You jump on the camera. Tag, you're it.
Tag.
Okay, so
Professionalism policy in the classes by
Well,
Professor Andrew
okay.
Rout.
a lot of what we've been talking about are professional, shoots we've done over the years and a lot of things that we have seen. Now, while you're here, please, please, please read. Don't just check the box on this professionalism assignment in the whole DCBS student manual. Download it and read it, because there are so many things in that policy manual that if you follow, a lot of these things hopefully won't be an issue. And really what brought that up is, Randy, when you were talking about firearms, for instance,
Which we do not allow.
which we do not allow, or any kind of weapons, for example. We have on a set what are called armors, and they are responsible for any weapon used on set. And we know recently,
Yes.
the tragedy that happened on what was the movie? Rust.
Yeah.
Okay. So that and vehicles, I know a lot of you want to shoot in vehicles, but we're very strict on that. But even when you're out on your own projects, please exercise, proper safe driving and all this kind of stuff.
But isn't that hampering my creativity as a filmmaker?
Well,
Yeah, here's the hampering of the
here's the
creativity.
hampering.
A car is, I'm the car, you're the camera, and
And
I
I
don't stop in time.
I've just run over you.
Yes.
That will forever hamper your creativity.
So that's
Yes.
the point. It's all about safety.
Yeah,
We're
it's
not
all-
trying to hamper anybody's creativity.
No, it's
And
all about
I want to
safety.
add something. I want to add something on that, because that's one of the things I have to deal with in professional development seminar on that, is you have a great opportunity that other film students don't have. You have your own gear. You have your own lights. You have your own audio equipment on here. And there are probably at least, we see 100 students a month in each of our classes.
I have 130 this month.
Okay.
50 in my-
All right. All of you have the opportunity to be out there and doing stuff, but we can't be there with you. And that's the difference with a film school. A film school has a group of students that has an instructor with them. They're doing one project, and you have such an opportunity to be able to get out there as long as you work safely and work efficiently. And I know Jessica's got a comment.
Safety doesn't end at the set. You have the hours scheduled, and you want to not go and make your crew so tired that they have issues getting home. We've had so many people that have died with car crashes leaving sets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
or
fa-
people that have slept in their car. I've
Right.
known several that have had to sleep in their car just because they've been so tired
That was a
leaving.
big complaint of the
Yeah.
Rust crew.
In fact, for the reality, for a student film, the standard is 10-hour days, because there's always this tendency of a student losing track of time. So if you peg that, but can I take a second to talk about wrap from beginning of the day to end of the day real fast?
Yeah. I'll
Wait,
say-
it's my
and that-
thing.
It's your
my
show,
thing. It's
man.
my show. Wait a minute. I
So
got
I'll
this
say
opportunity.
one last thing.
Yeah.
When in doubt, don't.
Okay.
And on that, carry on.
Thank you. So what I want to talk about, and I'm going to take it on this camera since I'm assuming I'm on a nice shot on here. One of the things that we have to think about with all this stuff, and we talk about that in our production classes, is the fact that all the things we're talking about right now have to be planned for to be done between your shoots, in your shots, everything you're doing on the set, you still have to plan for the idea. You think you're going to go in and you're going to go, okay, I've got 20 shots I want to get done, and I can just go in there, I can just do these shots, and I can get it done because it's 30 seconds a shot. I just have to do multiple takes. You still have to plan for the idea of getting into your area, setting up your lights, setting up your camera, setting up your audio, moving around, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, but this kind of took the conversation a little bit in this direction. And then you have to make sure everybody is safe during each change of shot. And the 10-hour day ends at what's known as tail lights, meaning you're not saying at the end of 10 hours, okay, let's wrap everything up, we're done. At the end of the 10 hours, you have packed everything away safely. You have said goodbye to your actors. You have thanked your crew, and you basically have put everything away. Even if you're in your own home, you've put it away for the night and said, I'm done with the shoot for today. That's the end of the day. So that's just my little thing I wanted to add in on what we were saying. Randy, I see you thinking. Did you want to add anything in on that?
No, I think that's it. You know, a tired crew is an inefficient crew, and an inefficient crew is when things happen.
So with that note, we're going to basically move on to our next part, which is going to be, I think we're moving on to talk a little bit about once the camera and the lights are set up, we still have to think about audio and making sure we get really good audio and making sure it can actually be heard. And what we do. Alan, how bad am I doing? How bad am I doing with the audio? Because I've been whispering.
No, I have you nice and loud.
Yeah, I'm already loud. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this over to Mr. Alan Harris.
Hello, everybody.
Who is going to talk a little bit about, now that the camera and the lights are set up, we still have to think about the fact of, I'm going to do a little bit of launch for you.
Oh, perfect.
Take the damn mic off the camera.
Please, please.
So he's going to show you some tips for basically working safely with audio with your camera that you have for the DCBS gear package, but also about some stuff to think about on any kind of set. So Mr. Harris, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll probably feed you questions as we go along.
Perfect. Let's take it away. I have my fun little props here. And we're going to start exactly where Mike left off. If I can remember where this is, there we go. And that is your microphone right here. Should really, really, really do a little bit of this. And do a little bit of that. And now, of course, we have a little shorty XLR that's meant for your just a little pass that you have to do from your camera to here. But that guy can come right off. Always remember, whenever you're dealing with an XLR cable, your main point of locking is going to be this little guy right here. So make sure that's fully engaged in, and then you might need a little bit of a wiggle, and then come right out. When you're putting this back on any sort of microphone or an extension XLR, you want to listen for this click. If you don't hear that click, what's happening are these pins aren't fully engaged, so it might only be a little bit. And you're going to hear any sort of movement or crackling with that microphone. So always make sure you're listening for the click, and also make sure to fully engage that button. And it's actually pushing that little bit of a locking mechanism right there out and away from the microphone. So now that we have our microphone, let me get something else. Everyone should have, I believe, is a 25-foot XLR cable. I think this might be a 30 or 25. I'm not too sure what I have with me today. But I have a little bit of an extension.
So before you go on, can I just mention one other thing?
Yeah.
On the cameras, you know, the cable, there's cable ties on the side of the handle that the cables go into.
Oh, yep.
So when you put the shotgun mic on, make sure that the cable is in those ties so that it's just not hanging out, because if you're walking by something, that cable will catch on it and it will either rip the camera out of your hand or rip the XLR out of the XLR connector, or damage the microphone adapter, and that's $1,000 to replace that.
And that's not something anyone wants to be paying for. So let's get this guy out of the way for now. Of course, XLR cables have two different ends. Your end right here, your female end, is going to have, of course, holes that are going to plug in. I'm sure you can't see that, but there's little pins inside the XLR, inside the shotgun microphone. That's going to plug right into here. And remember, listening for the click. Once you hear that click, you're good to go. We have plenty of other videos, at least 2 other videos talking about kind of DIY boom pole, and then another one on kind of, I think it was something we did with Mike. placement. Oh yeah, there's placement too, and then I think there is another version of the boom pole we made. Oh yeah, and wireless mics as well. So we have a whole bunch of different series where we can talk about exactly how to set this up where it should be. But for today, we're going to talk about where this cable needs to be living. So here we are. Let's bring the camera back in for now. Put this boom safely over here, just for a second. And our cable is going to go right into our handle, and I'm going to go into position number 1.
There we go. There's 3 switches under there, line mic and mic plus 48. Can you talk about those?
Yes, of course. Your line is going to be any sort of equipment. So if you have a lavalier or anything like that, most of those are going to be line level coming from maybe a mixer, or maybe if you're doing any sort of work on a stage and you have house coming from the backboard into your camera, that's how that you would do it. Mic is going to be for any sort of hotter signal. So any sort of condenser dynamic microphones, and that's going to be like a stage microphone. A lot of podcast microphones are going to be dynamic as well. Of course, the preamps inside of this guy aren't going to be good enough to be able to plug in a Shure SM7B. It's just not the job of this camera to do that. So you won't be able to get away with anything like that. Mic 48 is going to be microphone 48 volts or phantom power. Any sort of condenser microphone is going to be using phantom power, and that's because this microphone shouldn't be held like this. This microphone should be out and away from your shot so we don't see it.
Yes, please.
Just
be aware.
like
Alan.
that guy right there. Yeah, what's
Alan,
up?
just making them aware that that is the mic that a condenser mic is the mic they are getting on their camera.
Correct.
So we are talking about that. The SM7B is a dynamic mic.
Correct.
Which is used in podcasting most of the time.
Exactly, and that's going to be just normal mic. This is going to be 48 phantom power. Condenser, dynamic. Dynamic is using the voice to power the microphone. This guy needs supplemental power just because of how far away it needs to be from your talent. So it's going to make the pickup range a lot larger. So those are your 3 switches right down there. For most of my cabling, I actually have usually some Velcro straps attached to cabling like this. So I'll do a little bit of a safety strain, maybe somewhere around the leg, just like this. Of course, you want to make yourself have enough room. So if you need to do any sort of panning, you're not going to be catching on that strain. So, but the main purpose of this, as we were talking about before, is going to be if this guy gets any sort of pulled, we're not going to be putting the strain on here. We're hopefully putting the strain right down there. Something else I love to do as well, I'll take this guy off for now, just to keep it safe, is to give yourself some room on the very bottom of your run. And what I mean by that is we never, ever, ever, as we talked about with the light, want to see this. If we ever see a cable up like this in the air, that's going to be something we just trip over. We're going to take the whole camera with us, and we're probably going to trip over it ourselves as well. So our cabling always has to be at the bare minimum, something just like that. But whenever I talk about a loop, what I like to do, once I get this guy untangled, is give myself at least 2 lengths of slack. So what I mean by that is here's a loop, here's a second loop, and then this guy's gonna live on the ground just like this. So if anyone does end up tripping on this, there's still plenty of room for this cable to give, so we don't have, again, that tumbling it out.
Alan, can you do me a favor? Can
Yes.
you point out where you Velcroed the microphone cable to the camera?
So
to the tripod?
on this specific one, I have it right here to the leg. It's not the best because it can kind of slide up and down. So with this specific tie, I would want it more, maybe back here would be a good spot. And it's not a one solution. Of course, every single tripod's going to be a little bit different, but that gives a little bit more of a safety strain right there, as long as my Velcro holds up.
And you can actually get these kind of Velcro things in different lengths from like
Exactly.
Lowe's, Home Depot.
I bought
those
this
kind of things.
specific one on Amazon. I think it was like a 50 pack for less than $10, so it's not expensive in any
The
way.
reason I'm pointing out like Lowe's, Home Depot, those kind of things is this is something if you get on the set, what do you tell me on this, your thinking on this?
Yep.
You get on the set, it's you, your friends, you're all anxious and everything. you're not going to get on Amazon and say order this Velcro.
That's
you
true.
may send your friend
Yeah.
to go get this.
Yeah, and I've done plenty of runs with a little trip over to Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, where you can come up, even if it's not as nice of a little clip as this, there's going to be something that allows you to do this. Garden like yarn gives you a whole bunch of twine in one little roll. So you can even, instead of using Velcro, just have string that you use as tie-offs as well. And again, that'll last you a really long time. So always, as Mike was saying, don't feel like this is something unobtainable. You can be as creative as you need to be to make these solutions happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Something else I want to talk about, the coil. I'll pick this up so it's not directly on the ground. Whenever you have an anticipation of which way this coil is going to be pulled in any direction, try to have the coil lead in that direction. And what I mean by that is, if I predict that someone's going to maybe trip on this coil, I don't want to have this end of the coil touching the ground, because it's not going to do its job. It's going to pull the whole coil away from you. So in this instance, I want to have the wrap like this, so the feed of the coil is up in the air, just like that. Now, vice versa, maybe I'm doing something with a Dana dolly where I predict a lot of the movement of the coil is going to be from the camera itself. Then I would want to have the wrap like this, so the cable is feeding itself from that top instead. So it's just a little bit of pre-planning, kind of prediction of where you think the movement could be coming from. But again, 5 seconds of planning is going to save you this camera. It's worth that time. Let's talk about, can I have some of the gaff tape that's back there for me?
Alan?
Yeah.
Please,
thank you.
I'd like to just emphasize again about the planning.
Thank you.
As I want to make sure everyone is aware that we're not talking about the fact you shouldn't order from Amazon or order these things ahead of time.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is being aware of when you do a safety check, be aware that these things are getting creative and adapt.
Yeah, 100%. That's what this whole industry, I think you could say that about every single department, and that's nothing short with specifically safety as well. Being able to think on your feet and being able to think a couple steps ahead in the future is going to save you so much headache, in the future instead. What's the saying? It's like 5 seconds of preparation saves 2 hours of, panic, something like that. So just being creative with your solutions and trying to think about what possibly could go wrong and trying to head it off in that corner. I have done in the past, say, hey, I don't have a lot of run, which you guys might run into because of only having the one cabling. So I'm keeping it as safe as possible, but I don't have a lot of coil that's going to be left on the camera to be that little bit of a safety strain. So what I would recommend in that specific instance too is, of course, never ever have your cable going like that. That's very, very dangerous. Is to have a little bit of a gaff strain right at the beginning of your run. Again, if you can't have that coil right there instead. And that's going to be as simple as making sure this is as neat as possible and just making it stick to the ground as good as possible. Maybe even a second one just to be careful. And what this is going to do, if I come and try to pull on this, you can see right here, this camera isn't tumbling because someone tripped on this cable. It's going to put all that strain to that tape instead. Now, of course, still be very, very careful, because if that is that tight, someone's now going to be able to trip over it, but at least you're not taking the camera down with you. Now, again, not every single circumstance is going to require something like this. I would definitely recommend the coil method instead of just the tape, just because if someone does trip over it, they have the extension and then they're not going to trip. But again, whenever you have a pinch and you need to have a solution for it, that could be an idea for you guys. I can talk a little bit about, do you want to talk a little bit about the sneeze stand I have here, or?
Let's see. Yeah, talk a little bit about the C-stand.
Let me get rid of this stuff for a second. Now, remember, Randy very much stressed, never, never, never go over under with power cables, and that's 100% true. XLR cables are different. You need to go over under. Now, of course, I'm pretty fast at it just because it's my career. But just practicing at this, is going to be a lifesaver for you on set, especially once you're starting to deal with 100-foot cabling. That's not fun.
The number one complaint that Full Sail got for a while was they were graduating students who didn't know how to under and over cable.
Yep. So
Alan, I have to tell you this
Yeah.
one. I've got an interesting story. Our sound guy, when I went through film school in 1980, basically, your midterm was having to set up a full audio setup, and he
Yep.
timed you, and your grade was based on your time.
And when it comes to audio, speed is the name of the game. A lot of other departments get a little bit more luxury than us. That's just how it is. So you being as fast as possible, but you have to also be as safe as possible, not only for yourself, the people around you, but also to keep care of your gear. Because if that stuff starts breaking, most sound people own their own stuff. Now you're thinking about having to replace that, or maybe your insurance premium's going up, and that's the last thing you want to do. Okay, we have our C-stand here. Now, of course, not all of you guys are going to have this. These can get pretty expensive. The last time I checked, this exact C-stand was close to $200, I'd like to say, with the bottom and everything. On here right now, I have my little boom buddy. And this is going to be a hook we use to hang a boom pole, so we don't have to have a person holding a boom pole. Very, very good for stationary interviews. Once you have to start shifting back and forth because maybe the talent's in motion, or maybe because we have 4 talents up here and we have to shift that boom pole back and forth, this is going to become less valuable unless you have a whole bunch of boom poles, which gets expensive. So at that point, it's probably worth hiring a boom operator for it. But there is one very, very dangerous part. Well, a couple dangerous parts on here, but that is going to be this end right here. A lot of the time with lighting, but also with sound sometimes, we're going to have this end sticking out, and usually this boom or the C-stand has to be up in the air. So this thing is right in perfect angle to start hitting your face. And we have a really, really easy solution for something like that. And that's going to be a little tennis ball. Have a little cut in there, bam. Protect you like that.
And I'd
Something
like
else
to
that-
interrupt real quick.
What's up?
That is also good for lighting.
Yes, because again, usually you don't have to go at this extreme of an angle for sound. We usually try to keep it as straight as possible. But for lighting, if we're doing anything with tube lights or any sort of flag, this is going to be a more common placement for this arm. So just having that little bit of extra protection is going to be great. Something else I also use this for all the time is, let me flip this around, is going to be, am I hitting anything? For these feet. Anytime I'm going into a production and I'm working on someone else's flooring, especially like their house, Airbnb, something like this, these guys love to scratch up hardwood flooring. So just having 3 of these go on the ends just like that protects so much damage from those flooring. And it also really, really impresses most of the producers I work with that they think, they see I care this much about their location. So just taking that thought, and same exact thing as Mike was saying, I was working on an expensive house one time. I saw there was a Target within 2 minutes of me, so I went and bought 2 packs of tennis balls and was able to have this ready for that day. And now it's just always living in my car. So,
Alan,
yeah.
can you tell me how you safely pop a tennis ball to do that?
This is never, ever, 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 of course, have a knife going towards you or towards anywhere towards your wrist. Having a clamp or something and then doing it like that is going to be
We're
key.
talking more of like a X-Acto tool or a
Exactly.
doing a knife.
And the sharp,
not get a kitchen knife
no.
then.
Now, again, the sharper the knife, the better, because now you don't have to apply as much pressure, but sharper knives can also be very, very dangerous. So make sure you don't have your hand or your wrist or putting it down towards your chest like that. That's so dangerous to do. So make sure that this is away from you when you're doing a cut like this. And all you really need to do is do one little puncture, and then you can kind of force the rest of the open. Oh, do you want to talk about sandbags on this guy too?
Yeah, go on. That's
Yep.
at least cover a sandbag on here.
So pretty much the same exact tips that Randy was giving with the other types of stands. With a C stand specifically, you have 3 different heights of legs. You have your lower, your middle, and your upper, and this is so it can collapse into each other. So you always want to make sure that your sandbag is on that highest leg. And a good little test you can do is do a little kick, and if you see it swinging like that, you're good to go. If you have it on one of the lower ends, and it's not swinging, what's going to happen is it can just slide right out, just like that. But if I have it up in the air, and I try to pull it, the weight is actually on the bag. Now, I have had to work sometimes where just because maybe this is Rocky Mountain or maybe some weird other circumstance. Another way you can do this too is wrap the bag around the stem, just like that. But the preferably way is bam. And then that's gonna make it so this weight is weighted down. Cool. I think that's everything I can think of.
Oh, well, not done yet.
Oh, and I meant with this stuff.
Oh, with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was on here, but now I want to do one extra thing because we've had already, Professor Baker talked about things that have happened on pro sets.
Yes.
They're on a pro set, they're not running the cable to a camera. They're running to something else, aren't they?
So usually we go as wireless as possible with this type of stuff. There are instances where I need to run a feed directly to a camera for reference or sync for syncing purposes. But now when it comes to my boom pole, I try to have that as hardlined as possible. That's just my role, just so I always know that my boom is the most solid source. Unless someone comes and snaps that cable, I'm never gonna have to worry about it. So then I'm doing the things like the cable runs, making sure I have things like the tools like the Velcro or gaff taping it, all that fun stuff.
Okay, but what does the situation I'm going for
Yeah.
is what do you look like when you're on a pro set?
Oh, I am even bigger than I am now. I have so much things I'm wearing. Okay. And
Segue to that?
yeah, let's do it right now.
Okay.
And we have to have other sets of tools, like, are you hiding
Okay,
it?
this is the point in the show where Alan transforms into his superhero. So this is like me putting on his cape.
Okay, this goes around my, there we go.
Oh, you know what? Let's
Yeah.
talk about this. First.
Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so this is a K-Tech harness.
Yep.
I have one just like this.
I believe it's the Stingray, if you ever want to look up.
Yeah,
on
it has an aluminum lumbar bar in the back of this. And I think next to, I don't know, I would say this is probably the most important piece of gear.
I bought two things when I first bought my kit. The very first thing was this. The second most important thing was my boom pole, just to make sure it's as light as possible.
Well,
and that everything else was secondary.
I did a gig and I think it was but when we were doing that wrestler movie and I tried yours on and it was just, I couldn't believe it.
Yep.
So I did a gig and I had a harness that was just horrible. And I said to my wife, this is what, like $250 to $300.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm gonna buy one of these because I came home, my back was aching. And so I ordered it. I had it express delivered because, I was in the middle of this movie. And it's pretty amazing.
Yep.
And what this will save your back. You know how we were talking about safety?
100%.
About taking care of ourselves, taking care of gear, all of this. This is so important. And what this does, when you see, we're going to put the bag on Alan, you're going to see how dressed out we are when we're on a gig.
Yep.
I think it'll become very apparent because I don't know about you, but when I put mine on and that bag is secured to my person,
Yep.
it makes moving around with the actors so effortless.
100%, especially the style of shooting we're talking about with ENG style, electronic news gathering.
Run and gun.
You have to have these things on you because you need to be at 3 places at once. You need to be helping so many different
So let's
people.
show what we go through.
Awesome.
So on a set with people. So here, you get harnessed up here.
So we got 6 point of contacts on this specific one. This guy comes right here, and then we have this gray band, once I have it all set up. Comes in around my waist, buckles in. And then we have these little quick releases. I need to make sure all of my little straps are as far out as possible.
So when you say bag, The reason you're putting all these straps on is we're not talking a bag.
No, no.
Are we? We're not talking something
gonna-
small. We're about to fly in the bag.
The bag.
I'm ready for it.
So, guys, I have a bag almost identical
Yep.
to this, loaded down. And how much would you say this weighs?
At least 20.
At least 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know how we're looking out for each other? It's not uncommon. I'll just walk up to any of the crew members and I'll say, hold this for me. You know, if I don't have a table that I can put it on, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And we've done it, you know, on gigs we've worked on. So what I'm going to do, and you'll see how he hooks in. You know, I'll hold it up here.
Yep. So these guys go right here on these loops. And these are like, you know, little carabiners. Just like that. Just like that. I have two more that go on the bottom. Then I have these two, which go into these guys.
I love those clips.
Yep, that is from our own Mr. Randy Baker. These guys slide up just like this. I'll do the middle one next,
Yep.
and then we got the bottom one. And now I am hooked up, hands-free, ready to go. And again, if you can you pick that up for me?
Yeah.
The alternative, and you can see that these kind of have a little bit of a padding, so I'll have a lot of early sound guys just go where this is hanging around their neck, just like this, and they're rolling like this all day. They decide within about 4 days of doing this that they need to invest in something like this because it's just going to destroy your neck, which is something you can't do.
I was convinced one day.
Yeah.
You know, and I actually had a harness similar to that, but I could never, unless I'm just doing some recording where I have just like a recorder and bag and I can sling it over my shoulder.
Yep.
But when we're doing, you know, gigs out there, this is the only way to go. But we wanted you to see, and this again plays into set safety, and we're in a very tight environment in the room. We're in a very tight environment here. So look, I'm going to turn him sideways here. Look at how wide he is, how far he's extended.
It's a little insulting.
No, it's not. No.
It's the truth. I respect it.
Come on, man. All right, so you can see that. Okay, so now imagine one of the things we have to do on a set, we got to stake our claim
100%.
to where we are going to set up.
Yep.
And like, for instance, you know, a lot of the time we tend to, because of boom pole position, we want to be close to the camera, you know, because it just makes that much, you know, better sense.
And then also tries to match opposite of wherever the key light is too, and that's usually facing camera side because if you're in front of that key light, you're casting a shadow right across their face.
100%. So, you know, we were talking about doing a wireless hop, which is great because we're not tethered to the camera.
Yes.
It's not uncommon for Randy is like right here in front of us with the camera. We could be standing over there with our boom extended out, but there might be people over there. There might be other cameras. There might be light, you know, C-stands with flags and lights. So it's very important that you know your footprint, you know, of the space, because again, you know, I was talking about, you know, boom poles swinging around.
Yep.
But what if he had to turn real quick? Look at that. I mean, you got to be.
Yeah. And let people around you know, you were talking about this a little bit earlier. If you see people around you, let them know, hey, I've seen rehearsals, this is where I need to go. What are you doing here? And not in a condescending way, just be like, is there something you need to do here too? Or politely, are you watching? And if they're watching, be like, hey, could you just go a couple steps over to that side just because this is my runway I need to be like. And again, just do it in the most polite way, matter of fact way. People are going to respect it and understand rather than you kind of being passive aggressive and not letting, if you communicate to the people around you, it's about the job, not about personal blah, blah, blah.
And of course, you can see me standing next to Alan. I'm kind of challenged height-wise, okay? So the taller you are, you know, you can, as a boom op, you can get over, you know, and go high in your boom position.
So let's see.
They're,
how tall are we? Yeah, you're down there.
yes. So, you know, when I was doing a movie about a month ago, and we were doing somewhat of a wide shot, and I literally had to take one of my Pelican case and lay it on its side and stand on it.
Yep.
Or a
I usually
or an
have an Apple
Apple
box
Apple
somewhere
box.
close by for that same
I
reason.
refuse a chair.
No, that's too.
But you know, I'll always ask a PA or a grip who's there, you know, say, help me up here, because I have a lot of I'm holding onto, and I got to step up on some. So again, it's that helping each other out, and because it's a safety thing. So as you get on these jobs and you see, you know, someone who's doing sound with a bag, you know, this is serious business here. Okay.
Awesome.
Anything else?
No, I think we're pretty much good. And just communication is key on a set, in no matter what department you're in.
So I'm going to kick you off so I can talk to him for a second.
Again,
And I'm going to.
What am I doing?
I'm going to drag in Professor Baker if you'd go back to a wider shot. Okay, so
it's like Randy in the middle.
Randy, well, apparently, here's my question. We've given them all this safety, we've given them all these things. So they get up their first shot. They've got the camera in place, they've got the lights in place, the camera in place, the microphone in place. They've rolled their first take, they're happy, they've got the whole shot, and now they want to pick up and move the camera, move to another shot, move the light. Yeah, we don't have to show them that, but what is the first thing that they should do when they're about to move a setup?
I'm going to let you.
Yeah,
you go.
I have very strong opinions about this. Anytime you're moving the camera more than a foot or two, you take the camera off the tripod, period. Okay, you never want to pick the tripod up with the camera on it and lug it around. That's the big thing. The big thing on a set that takes time is camera moves. Because once the camera moves, the entire crew comes in, the makeup people, the wardrobe people, and everything. And so the thing is, and why I like to work with smaller crews rather than very large crews, is that we're more efficient. You know, we can do a camera move. And so if you've got, 20 camera setups to do before lunch, and, every time you move the camera, everybody comes in, and then getting everybody out of the scene, and so that you can set up the shot and then set up the shot and stuff, take a half an hour shot. You just don't have that amount of time. So you just have to be careful, wrangle your cables, cable wranglers. If we're usually have a camera PA that's wrangling cables for us. So it's really important that you take your time and make sure that, everybody's safe as they're moving equipment in and out.
Now, one important thing I want to point out before we go is make sure that you're moving on to the next question, is make sure when you're taking the camera off the tripod, you've got someplace safe to go with the camera to set it down on there. So
Is there anything you shout out to the crew to let them know that the
Camera coming through, yeah.
Or
It's kind of like
cam-
riding a bike, on your
camera
right,
on the move,
yeah,
on
yeah.
your right, on your
Yeah.
left, camera on the move.
Yeah.
That hopefully people will stop and they'll look around and make a hole for the camera.
Right.
I usually have a really strong camera PA that's like, make way. But if you're like, for example, shooting in a theme park or something, then you have a couple people walking in front of you, clearing
To
people
clear,
around.
right.
They won't
I'll
allow people.
I'll
excuse
probably-
me, clear, yeah, clear.
I'll probably
like
find
that.
Yeah, like
find
that.
an
Okay.
out, before, so I can just kind of step back and just stay out of the way. Because if I'm just with my bag and boom, I can kind of chill for a moment. And usually actors are already off the stage,
Right.
and
Right,
But-
and so this is the thing though, you're in a student production, you're one person, you're by yourself.
what do I do?
Exactly,
Am I so I'm responsible for everything?
everything.
I would put my camera away first.
Yes, thank you. On
I
that
would
one.
I would secure that before anything.
I just wanted to get his reaction when I said that, because I will be honest with you, it's been a while since we've done a lot of things on our own, but I want to point out that each one of us, when you see a video for the class, when you see a lot of the stuff, a lot of times we're practicing what we preach. We're doing these things sometimes on our own, in our own home offices. And I need to point out right now that we didn't point out to them on the fact that we've got a multi-camera setup, we've got the props, we've got everything here. We're in a space that is literally 15 feet by 10 feet.
Like an apartment.
we are in basically the equivalent of a studio apartment. So one of the things we want you to take away from this is the idea that you can do this. You actually have the ability to be able to do these kind of productions. So, do we want to take a couple questions real fast? Because we got about 10 minutes left on this.
Well, I was going to say, you know, even with all the big gigs that we've done, and this is pretty typical of what, you know, we do a lot of. We still take safety, you know, safety is number one. Doesn't matter how many years you've been doing this or where you're doing it or with who.
And I will be honest, if you were to look in here from the door, you would look in here and go, oh my God, why do they have things everywhere? We have everything in a spot that we know we can grab at it. And we have already, and I know we can't show it right now, but we have a path that literally goes from the camera we're using as a prop to the first camera that we're using here. And there is literally a safe path all the way back to Video Village where we're actually running this whole thing. So it may look like sometimes that it may be a little messy, but as long as you're putting everything in its place where you know you can grab it safely, that's the important thing.
Cables are cables are tucked away. If I set up a camera, I have a cable. I really make sure my camera area looks nice. I don't leave cables laying all over the place because it just takes one, you know, knucklehead to trip over them. Sorry.
Set safety, Randy.
Fell off a sandbag.
Oh, tripped
No,
on the rollers.
that was a stunt. No.
was a stunt.
Wait, no, they can't do stunts.
Yeah.
Nope, they can't do stunts. No.
There's a sandbag here. I had my leg
Blame it
on.
on the
got caught.
skeleton.
And it's my sandbag, so he's not used to working with it.
Blame it on Skelly.
But
He's demonstrating set safety.
Get back here.
all right, let's see.
Okay,
We had one
Q&A?
question came in that I want to answer first. I know there was another question, but I'm kind of wording it a little differently than they said it. They were worried about set security. Like if they were in a location that didn't seem to be safe.
Firewatch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Firewatch.
Well, I'm talking safe as in even something could happen where things might be stolen or, harm, property, that kind of thing. I mean, my attitude is if you think you're going to be unsafe in that situation, don't shoot there. And if you're being hired for a crew, don't take the gig if you think you're unsafe, because the question was basically, can you request security?
Well, there was a gig I was thinking it was asked to do that was in a pretty bad part of town that I declined because I wouldn't go there. But you know, it's like if that's the case, yes, I agree. Don't shoot there,
Yeah.
or shoot at a time of day that, you know, like during the day if you can. But if you have to, pack your gear up and go home.
Right. I would say basically scout the place at night. If it doesn't look good, you just adjusted your script to exterior day.
Right.
Right. And always be aware of your surroundings. I mean, if something looks shady, you know, it's not worth losing your equipment or getting hurt. Walk away from that location.
100%.
Jessica, was there any other questions?
Safety checklist or examples, safety briefs.
Okay, I know that I provide in my class and you have the safety in your class. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting together basically a risk assessment and a safety material kind of culled from our stuff. So when this is posted to wearedcbs.com, there will be also a download of safety resources for you to look at also on there. But believe me, when you hit our classes, you're going to get a lot of this.
I carry in my ditty bag a little safety kit that has, alcohol and Band-Aids and wraps. And
Meaning rubbing alcohol.
Like a mini first aid kit.
Yeah, a mini first aid kit. And of
Absolutely.
course, in my van, I have a fire extinguisher. So I'm always aware of where all that stuff is. And again, anytime you have any kind of pyro or even lit candles on the set, you should have a fire extinguisher standing by. This is common sense. So a lot of what we're talking about here is common sense. But when you get into the heat of production and everybody's rushing and, you got a small crew and everybody's doing multiple jobs, that's easy to, it falls by the wayside sometimes. So you always have to be thinking about it.
Absolutely. What else we got?
So I'm checking out with our crew back here in Video Village. Any other questions? Okay, we got a couple coming in.
Should a gaffer go house lights up and power down when breaking for lunch?
Yeah, anytime you're turning on lights, you got to let people around you know what's going on so that they don't, if you're in a really dark environment and you turn lights on, then, as you know, you kind of go like this for a second. If somebody's walking and there's something in front of them, same thing, anytime you're turning on a bright light, you don't want to blast people in the eye without giving them.
What would you scream?
We would scream light coming on or light
Eyes
on,
or-
your eyes or,
Yeah, I was doing a convention setup gig, and I knew this young man who was on it, and he was new and stuff, and I walked right by him, and he was setting, I don't know what light it was and he fired that right as I walked by, and I couldn't see for like a minute.
Yeah, it blinds you. And imagine if you're coming down the stairs and all of a sudden somebody shuts off the house lights. So it's always house lights on, house lights off. So
What else?
Okay, so Professor Rao, you have been challenged.
I have.
Yes.
So what?
How much sugar is actually in a pumpkin spice latte?
Oh gosh. Probably a lot.
I'd say 24 grams.
Easy.
Probably most of your daily allowance.
Yes. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to do a second. I'm going to pull away my entire tech crew, so the meeting is not monitored right now because we have had a great show, and I want us to safely come onto the set, and we should be in a wide shot there, aren't we? Okay.
We are.
And I want to
Get in the middle.
officially thank Miss Jessica Cobine, Mr. Alan Harris, Professor Randy Baker, I'm kidding,
Sure.
and the co-conspirator of Live from the Hide, my good friend, Professor Andrew Rout. I'm Michael Hanley, and we look forward to seeing you in all of our classes. And it's going to take a second to get back to close this off, but that's a wrap. Thank you, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Run, Jessica,
Run,
run.
Jessica.
Don't run. Don't run.
Don't run on
Thank
set.
you. Don't running on
Don't run
set.
with
Thank
scissors.
you.
Don't run on
run.
sets.
Are we done recording?
Are we off?